Your host is a dating strategist and writer who coaches singles on how to find love. Her book, D is for Dating, Column on JDate, have helped hundreds of daters make a match. Whether you're single, married, dating, or anything in between, get ready for a conscious conversation about love in the modern world. Get ready for Dates and Mates with Dear Mrs. D.
Dates and Mates with Dear Mrs. D is brought to you in part by the Cool Change Foundation, a nonprofit corporation dedicated to carrying a message of recovery, positive evolution, motivation, and life enhancement so that you can help yourself to a better tomorrow. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dates and Mates with Dear Mrs. D, where we take a modern approach to dating and relationships. We're your place to get helpful advice and tips, whether you're in a relationship right now or looking to find one. My name's Damona Hoffman, but I also go by Dear Mrs. D, and I'm here to have an honest conversation with you about love, dating, marriage, and address your relationship questions that are on your mind. So today we're discussing something that is near and dear to my heart: interracial dating, relationships, and children. Our in-studio guest today is Courtney Morrison. She is the co-founder of interracial dating site mixitup.net. And joining us later today is Crystalline Karazin, co-author of Swirling: How to Date, Mate, and Relate, Mixing Race, Culture, and Creed. Thank you to all of you who are joining us on coolchangeradio.com, dearmrsd.com, Blog Talk Radio, and on Facebook. You can always catch our recent shows on all of those sites, plus get free dating tips and watch clips of Dear Mrs. D's other recent appearances at youtube.com/Dear Mrs. D. Joining us now is Courtney Morrison. She is co-founder of the interracial site mixitup.net. Along with her sister Tiffany, Courtney co-founded the site after learning of the increasing number of multiracial families, relationships, and friendships in America. They are both products themselves of an interracial marriage. Their father is African American and their mom is of English and Scottish descent. Mix It Up celebrates the diversity of modern families with products for people in multiracial and interracial relationships. Mix It Up's products include a wide variety of items, such as greeting cards and apparel. The company's been featured in the San Diego Union Tribune, New Orleans Times-Picayune, and Newark Star-Ledger. Joining us now on Dates and Mates with Dear Mrs. D, here on the Cool Change Radio and TV network, is Courtney Morrison.
Hello.
Welcome, Courtney. So tell us how you got the idea for Mix It Up. And just for those at home, it's mix-it-up.net that we're talking about.
Correct, yeah.
How'd you get the idea for it?
Well, this came from an idea that my mother, when we were growing up, what would happen is we'd have occasions where she would want to buy cards. So say birthday or whatever, graduation. And every time she would look for an appropriate card for the occasion, the only options available showed families that were either all white or all black. And there weren't any depictions of interracial families or couples in these on these greeting cards. So she would color them in to actually make them look more like our family. And so cut 2 years later, and my sister and I were just sort of reminiscing about those days and how my mother would do that. And we thought, wait a minute, why aren't there any cards that depict these families when they are increasingly becoming more common? So we decided to work with a photographer and work with an artist and come up with a line of greeting cards that did depict these multiracial and interracial relationships. And we decided to start selling them online, which is not where most people buy their cards, but you have to start somewhere. And so that's how we came to be.
Well, hey, when you're looking for like something that's unusual like that,
that's true.
You'll go anywhere.
Yeah.
You'll go to any lengths.
True.
I remember when my sister got married, they had little figurines of all of the bridal party, and like my sister is my half sister. She's black, and her husband was white, and then there was like. They had the black ones, they had the white ones, but they didn't have any that were my color. So they colored one specially for me.
It's so sad that we have to do that.
I
but
know.
It's the reality.
So you grew up where? You grew up on the East Coast, right?
Yes, we grew up in upstate New York and also in New Jersey. And, I'm going to give away my age, but we grew up in the 70s and the 80s. And, back then in that area, there were not a lot of mixed race families and couples at all. And, in fact, when our first elementary school, we were the only children of color in, I believe, the entire school, the entire elementary school.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that
Of any color.
That's correct.
Wow.
And that was very difficult in the 70s because there was a lot of name calling and that kind of thing. And then to sort of make it a little bit worse, we moved to New Jersey. And the elementary school we ended up going to was basically probably about 98% black. So then all of a sudden we were in the opposite situation. And there was a lot of name calling in the other direction. And so it was definitely difficult. And then we finally found a great place to live in New Jersey that had a more mixed culturally population. And so yeah, and so then that became really nice because there were all different races in my school at that point, and it became a lot easier.
That must have been nice.
It was very nice.
There wasn't a lot where I grew up in Michigan, and there weren't a lot of interracial or biracial kids.
Oh yeah.
But there actually was a fair amount of diversity, but it's interesting how in some cultures it's like, but you know, there's diversity, but you keep it separate.
That's
you know?
exactly how it was in my town. Although it's funny, there were some of my closest friends. Now that I think about it, they were, you know, one was half white, half Puerto Rican, one was half Asian, half white. So there were some biracial kids, but not many at all. And it was very, I think, segregated in terms of your race. You know, like the black kid sat at the black table, the Asian kid sat at the Asian table, and so on and so forth. And yeah, I would like to think that things are a little bit different these days. You know, you definitely see, I think you see more, well, you certainly see more interracial children, at least I do.
In California we do, for sure. Yeah.
Maybe not so much in Orange County.
Oh, right. I forgot that you live in Orange County. So you married a Caucasian man, correct?
Yes.
So tell me, if we can get a little personal
we can
here.
Get personal.
Did you always date Caucasian guys, or were you okay?
I like to say I'm an equal opportunity dater.
Okay, I used to say the same thing.
But yeah, I think my parents did a really good job of raising my sister and I to see beyond race when it came to dating, and I think they really wanted us to be happy and be in a loving relationship regardless of the race of our partner. So I think we always just went into dating with a very open mind. It was more of like who was willing to date us. You know, that was the choice that we made.
Yeah, it's interesting also, like growing up somewhere where the standard of beauty is one thing. Like I always felt very much like an outsider, like growing up, like there weren't people that would be interested in dating me, as you said. And then when I like moved to a bigger city, and I mean, even I'm not bagging on the Midwest. I love the Midwest. I'm going there next week. But you know, it's a very different world, at least the time when I lived there, than it was when I came to California. And like you just walking down the street, there are people of different races holding hands, and it's like no big thing. Like I feel like maybe it happens elsewhere, but in certain places, even still today, you still get those looks like.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever had any experiences like that with your husband?
No, I think we've been very lucky to, you know, live in an area where even though we live in Orange County, which I believe has a population that's only 2% black, we do occasionally see other mixed race couples, and we never, I don't think we've ever felt any kind of negative reaction towards our family when we all go out with the kids. We never, you know, we might get a few stares, but, you know, I like to say that you never know if those people are staring for a positive reason or for a negative reason. So I choose to believe that they're staring
because you're so gorgeous.
Right. Yes, that's exactly what it is. We're just such a beautiful family.
Well, speaking of your family, I've seen pictures of them. You do have a beautiful family.
Thank you.
And you have two sons. One of them has darker hair and a complexion similar to yours, and the other is very fair. So, I mean, some people I'm sure would look at your youngest son and presume that he's entirely Caucasian.
That
right?
is correct. He's got blonde hair and blue eyes too, so that
blue
even
eyes,
makes
too.
it a little bit.
How did those genetics work out?
Well, it's funny, but yeah, my husband has brown hair and brown eyes, so it's kind of how do you get a blonde hair, blue eyed baby out of that combination? But we actually do have blue eyes in both sides of our family. So,
Yeah.
so
He got it.
He got it, and I have been asked when I've been out with him if he is biologically my child, and I just say, I just laugh about it and say, yes, he is, and leave it at that.
Yeah. What is that? Is that like having a son that, I mean, well, let's just talk about the identity of your kids for a minute. Like, do you feel like you identify them as Black or as mixed or as like what? How do you label it, or do you prefer no label?
That's actually a very good question, and I think that's something that I'm still grappling with, and that I will have to grapple as they get older and go into school. I mean, right now they're very young; they're not even in school. But you're right that will become an issue because, I mean, they're only a quarter Black, but yet, in society's eyes, it's always a very strange thing on the definition of race. I mean, back in the old slave days, it was like the one drop rule would apply, and no matter what you looked like, if you had one drop of Black in you, you were considered Black. That's right. But I think in today's society, I think it's more about how you look. I do think so. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how. I don't know
They're
if
just
I want
people.
to. I don't. I don't know if I want to put a label on them at all. Right.
Yeah,
I would prefer that they're just themselves and understand their background.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get deeper into this discussion. After the break, I'm going to bring in our second guest, who's Crystalline Curzon, who will be joining us via Skype. So stick around so we can continue this discussion. I'm here with Courtney Morrison, co-founder of MixItUp.net, the interracial dating and relationship site the interracial kids and
the site.
The site.
Family site.
Family site where you can get your interracial swag. Find them on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, or at MixItUp or Pinterest at MixItUp World. This is Dates and Mates with Dear Mrs. D.
Experience the Quick Fix, a simple process for positive change. Written by Bradley Quick, author, producer, motivational speaker, and host of the award-winning radio talk show, The Quick Fix with Bradley Quick on CoolChangeRadio.com. Bradley's passion for life is evident in his book, written so you can experience health, find your purpose, and have more effective relationships. Beating insurmountable odds, overcoming death, and being paralyzed, Bradley fought his way back so he could help you conquer your struggles. Experience increased health, vitality, passion, and purpose in your life right now with The Quick Fix, and read about Bradley's courage, ambition, and determination to live. Whether the issue is your thoughts, your physical body, or you just want to feel better and be happy, The Quick Fix, a simple process for positive change, will change your life. For only $19.95 plus shipping and handling. Take positive action now and receive a free guided meditation CD with your order. That's a $20 value free with your order today. Go to BradleyQuick.com. That's BradleyQuick.com. Take control and begin feeling better now. Get the book and free CD now at BradleyQuick.com.
We're talking love in the modern world. This is Dates and Mates with Dear Mrs. D.
This has never been attempted before by any treatment center, ever. Seasons Malibu is willing to take the risk because they understand quality care and evidence-based long-term recovery. Pay for only 3 months of treatment and stay until you are better, period. I'll say that one more time. Pay for only 3 months of treatment and stay until you are better. Enough is enough. Seasons Malibu wants to count your days of recovery, not the dollars in your pocket. No gimmicks, no guarantees, just straightforward world-class treatment until you are better. Do not hesitate. Call now. Seasons Malibu, 866-780-8539, 866-780-8539. That's Seasons Malibu at www.seasonsmalibu.com or 866-780-8539. 866-780-8539 for a free consultation and details. 866-780-8539.
Welcome back. You're listening to Dates and Mates with Dear Mrs. D on Cool Change Radio, your home for self-improvement and a place for positive change. This show is brought to you by DearMrsD.com. Looking for love in all the wrong places? Get the secrets for finding the love of your life from someone who did. That's me. Whether you need help creating a sexy online profile, getting over first date jitters, or keeping relationships going long term, Dear Mrs. D has something for you. Visit the website, sign up for my newsletter, get a copy of D is for Dating, or just contact me and say help, and I'll be there for you. For those of you just joining us on Cool Change Radio, you can listen to this show again or to hundreds of hours of other self-discovery content anytime you want by simply going to bradleyquick.com. There you can also sign up for our weekly radio show email reminder, and once a week you'll receive the most recent interviews in the comfort of your own home or office and listen at your convenience. So make sure not to miss your favorite authors, experts, and personalities. Joining us now via Skype from San Diego is Crystalline Karazin. She's co-author of Swirling, How to Date, Mate, and Relate, Mixing Race, Culture, and Creed. She is the publisher of internet magazine Beyond Black and White. That's at beyondblackwhite.com. She's a health, lifestyle, business, and education writer for such high-profile publications as Women's Day, Better Homes and Gardens, Ebony, Jet, Pregnancy Magazine, Reuters News Service, and many more. Prior to magazine writing, she was a public relations professional who specialized in consumer and legal public relations. She is most importantly, though, a mother of 4 children, 3 of them biracial, and has been married to her husband, Michael, who just happens to be white for almost 10 years, as she calls them, happy, hectic years. Thank you for joining us, Crystalline. I'm glad you could be here. Congrats on the success of Swirling. Where did you get the brave idea to write something like this? Hold on one second, Crystalline. I think we are having a little bit of audio trouble with you. I'm loving this story, though, but I might have to have you back up. Hold on. We're doing a little bit of troubleshooting. All right. Now, tell us, you had always assumed that you would marry someone like your father who's black.
Yes, I mean, I wanted somebody. I remember telling my father, I want to marry you. I was like maybe 6 years old, and I said, I want to marry you. And I was completely serious. I wanted to marry my father because he was just that awesome. God rest his soul. Oh. But what I really was looking for, again, was not so much the color, but the content of his character.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a little thrown off because I hadn't, even though I'd been raised in a majority white area, and it was in California, Southern California, small town, but you know, it wasn't anything unusual. I saw a lot of interracial relationships between black men and white women, but not the other way around. So it was strange. When people realized, hey, she's really serious about this white guy, they were taken aback a little bit. I have a story in the book with one of my cousins in the family who saw family pictures and laughed nervously.
Oh, wow.
Been nothing I've ever seen. However, I have tons and tons of biracial cousins who, you know, by the men in my family who dated and mated and married with non-black women, and that was okay. But to see my kids and to see my biracial family, it was sort of off-putting. So what I realized through the blog and through the book was these experiences weren't unique to me. Lots of black women seem to have this. There seems to be sort of a double standard when it comes to interracial relationships. And the data does reflect that. Black men intermarry at twice the rate of black women. It's starting to change, but, you know, there is a double standard there.
So why do you think, if your research indicates that black women usually... Are they deciding not to marry outside their race, or do you think that there are societal factors that are at play that keep them from that opportunity? Why do you think that this phenomenon's happening?
I think in previous generations there were societal factors, but as black women start to make inroads at the university and at the workplace, they're starting to be exposed to more non-black people. And so while I do think that there were barriers before, there certainly are, those barriers are starting to break down. I do think that there are some external factors. I think that, you know, it's natural to have a desire for your own race, and that's perfectly normal. But I think that for some women, that there was this somewhat of a fear, because some Black women have been told that, especially darker skinned Black women, that we're not desirable outside of the Black community, that nobody else will want us or appreciate our beauty or our skin or the texture of our hair, and that, basically non-Black men don't want you. There's no other man that will love you like a Black man. And so I think that there's been a lot of fear that has kept Black women from approaching, because fear of rejection is quite strong and quite real.
True. And you also write in your book that one problem is that many Black women don't even recognize when a non-Black man is interested, because they've been so conditioned to just look for that attention from a Black man. Do you think that Black men and non-Black men flirt in different ways? And if not, like, why is their game so oblivious? Why is it doesn't have any effect on the Black women?
It is a constant question that comes up on the blog Beyond Black and White all the time, because Black women mistake non-Black men hitting on them as, oh, they're just being nice. They're not really interested in me. They're used to a certain sort of, I think we're conditioned, but I also think we're looking for it from a Black man. We're used to seeing those cues, but I think there's a whole lot of baggage and other stuff that gets in the way of and filters out what our perceptions are when it comes to non-Black men. Like, say you're in the coffee shop and, a guy is like, oh, you're here again. You're getting your mocha chocolate frappuccino. And he doesn't work there, but he knows that you've been in there for the past 3 days buying the same drink. That guy is interested in you.
It's interesting you use the word mocha chocolate, because that's actually what my girlfriends and I that are mixed call one another.
Well, I mean, that certainly is consistent, because anybody who's had a mocha chocolate knows that that's the color that you get.
Right? Mix it up. So joining us once again, for those of you just tuning in, I have on Skype Crystalline Karazin, publisher of BeyondBlackWhite.com, as well as author of Swirling, How to Date, Mate, and Relate Mixing Race, Culture, and Creed. So, Crystalline, if you are into swirling, what tips could you offer listeners on how to do it right? Are there certain cities that are better than others, certain places you can go to make a connection? How do we swirl the proper way?
Well, I think that region and geography do play a big role. The three of us live in California, and going outside of California and seeing swirl behaviors, it's like going to another planet. And I think that the results may vary depending on what region you're in. We have a whole chapter dedicated to where in the world people are swirling, like where are the most quote-unquote squirrel-friendly cities across the United States, because there are some cities that are just more liberal, just open-minded in their thinking, and more progressive.
Can you give us some hints on where those swirl-friendly cities are?
San Diego is a really good
Interesting
place.
You would choose that.
In the heart, I'll just go through the United States. So we started on the West Coast, and then we've got San Diego, but then we've also got Seattle and Oregon even is very open to that. And then if you go into Middle America, you've got Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is also very swirl friendly. They've got high rates of interracial relationships, and I can't really figure out why. I'm gonna have to go there and visit, because I'm like, how is this? It's Minnesota. Like, what is that? So that's also another place.
Yeah, my mom actually moved there for that reason.
She did.
Yes, but now she's since come to California.
So does that mean that California is better than Minnesota?
I'm not making any statements. I'm sure we have people listening from Minnesota. They're just different. But no, I mean, Minneapolis is a very open-minded city. They also have it's a very gay-friendly city, and it's a great place to live. But it's like all of the United States. They're different cultures, and you could go 100 miles outside of Minneapolis and find a completely different culture there. So,
And that's what we say in the book that, these are sort of generalities that we speak in, but it can really go from not just from state to state. It can go from city to city, to block, even to neighborhood to neighborhood. It just depends. I mean, because we have people come in and say, you know what, I live in Mississippi and everybody is really very nice. Mm-hmm. And then you get an article that comes out that says some Mississippi church won't marry a couple because they've never married a black couple in this church in 200 years. So it just depends. And then when we go toward the East Coast, Manhattan, of course, is so multinational, multicultural. Swirling in Manhattan is just, it's nothing. It's everybody is doing it. It's not a big
Everyone's
deal.
doing it. Well,
when you go to Westport, Connecticut, which is where my husband is from, it's like, where are the black people? Where are the swirlers?
We'll have to talk more about that. We're coming up on a break, but I want to talk more about that after the break. If you have questions about the show, post them to our wall, dating expert Dear Mrs. D, or facebook.com/Dear Mrs. D. And you can also post any questions on live stream and join in the dating conversation. We are here with Courtney Morrison of mixitup.net. She'll be joining us again after the break. And we also have Crystalline Karazin, author of Swirling: How to Date, Mate, and Relate, Mixing Race, Culture, and Creed. Stay tuned. This segment has been brought to you by JDate's JMag. Read free dating tips and advice from some of the leading experts in the field, including Dear Mrs. D.
There are self-help seminars costing thousands of dollars guaranteeing miraculous transformations. There are compelling speakers and life-changing weekend experiences where you can walk on fire. They all deliver revelations that guarantee you'll come back for the more expensive revelations filled with even greater wonder next month on Fiji. We get addicted to positive, heartfelt, expensive theater. What we really need is a jumpstart, an awakening, someone who can give us a reminder that everything we need lies within. Through inspiration and practical knowledge, Dorothy Donahue helps people get grounded and motivated, inspired and energized. It's not just words and affirmations and the power of intention. It's a mindset brought about by a tangible, transcendental experience, an audio-visual, physical, spiritual experience that helps us realize we transform ourselves. We get tools to become the conscious co-creators of lives of unlimited potential. Find out more. Go to DorothyDonahue.com.
Don't touch that dial. This is Dates and Mates with Dear Mrs. D.
I'm Melody Beattie, author of Codependent No More. 7 times more Americans have hepatitis C than AIDS. I'm one of them. If you're one of the millions of Americans with hepatitis C and your doctors are treating you with interferon, then you're clearly aware of how your life has been turned horribly upside down. Backed by huge pharmaceutical monies, the medical community swears there's only one dangerous, disabling way to battle this silent killer. It's not true. There are alternatives, and they work. Triumph Over Hepatitis C is a book written by best-selling author Lloyd Wright, who fully recovered from this frightening disease. Lloyd is helping others to take charge of their lives and fight for their body's freedom from this crippling illness. His program is working for me. Call the people at Hepatitis C Free now at 866-HEP-C-FREE. That's 866-HEP-C-FREE. Don't become another medical statistic. Find out the truth about hepatitis C and get your life back.
Get your copy of Triumph Over Hepatitis C at Barnes & Noble and at hepatitiscfree.com. Call 866-HEP-C-FREE.
Welcome back. You're listening to Cool Change Radio, your home for self-improvement and a place to find your passion and purpose. I'm Dear Mrs. D, and we're talking about doing something different with your dating life. Something very different this week. We're talking about mixing and matching and swirling among race, culture, and creed. With us now, Crystalline Karazin, co-author of Swirling: How to Date, Mate, and Relate, Mixing Race, Culture, and Creed. And we are also joined in studio by Courtney Morrison of Mix It Up, a company specializing in products for biracial babies like me and like Courtney. Thanks for being here, guys. So we were talking before the break about different places that you can go to swirl. So let's imagine we've talked about let's imagine that someone has decided they want to connect with someone of a different culture. Now, what happens? What happens when they hit it off? Crystalline, you have how do you have that guess who's coming to dinner conversation?
And that can be so stressful, and we felt like it definitely needs a chapter, and it could have actually used 3 or 4 chapters. But it just depends on what the couple's anticipating in terms of what the parents, how the parents may receive the news. It just depends. For my situation, I talk about it candidly in the book. It was a disaster.
Oh no.
Guess Who's Coming to Dinner was a disaster. It was so uncomfortable, and it wasn't because my husband's parents were mean or anything like that. It was just very uncomfortable. And so I kept thinking back on this. How could it have been done better? What are some of the issues that I felt that seemed to be a theme? And so what we did with the chapters was we focused on, the talk you should have. First of all, the first step is you need to have a conversation before you go in to have dinner. You guys need to brief each other on, what mom likes, what mom doesn't like. Don't talk politics, or dad loves football but he hates basketball, and he's terrible at golf, so don't mention that at all. So
wouldn't those be things that you should talk about either way, like even if it's not an interracial couple meeting parents, right?
Definitely. I mean, it's definitely things that you can apply to a monoracial relationship.
Monoracial, I like that.
I know. Is there really such a thing in America, though? I don't know if there is really such a thing. But there are certain things that you need to discuss ahead of time in terms of. I'll give you an example. My husband never told his family that I was Black. He just passed a Polaroid around and said, "Hey, you guys have been asking about Chris. Here she is." I would recommend not doing that. It was a shocker for them. They said, Mike, you've been talking about Chris for this long time. You could have been a little bit more specific.
But does that even matter? I mean, that's the thing. Like, I know when...
If you bring this person in and then the parents have no idea.
Okay, you don't want to catch them off guard.
You're putting your partner in a very uncomfortable situation that's really not being considerate of their feelings or very empathetic.
Courtney, I'm sorry to cut you off. Courtney's here in studio with us. Courtney, you're biracial, but your husband is white. Did you ever have that conversation? Do you think it was different maybe because you were half white?
Well, luckily for me, my husband's brother is also in a mixed race marriage, and so I think he paved the way. He's married to a Filipino woman. And so, right, so I think that, and also my husband had dated outside of his race in the past, not necessarily with a Black person, but had dated outside of his race. And so I think the family was used to having people of other races around and involved in their family life. So when I came to that first meeting of the family, I think he had prepped them and I think everything was fine. And they're very progressive.
Then they were like, "Oh,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
we've been there, done that."
Well, actually, you bring up another thing I wanted to talk about. And in addition to my own mixed up side of the family, my sister-in-law is Indian, and her parents moved here in their 20s. So she feels very American because she was born and raised here. But it was still important to my brother-in-law and to her that they taught the kids Bengali and exposed them to Indian culture. So we've been talking a lot about Black-white relations. What about when you're dealing with a different language or first-generation American families and even families maybe that live internationally, and you have to sort of bridge that gap? Any thoughts on that, Crystalline?
Yes, definitely, because we did talk about those issues. There's a section in there talking about dealing with intermarriage and interracial coupling between other minority groups. You would assume that it would somehow be easier, but in some ways it's more difficult because in American society, minorities are often at a race to the top, and they're sort of competing minorities to try to be the model minority for seeking the approval for the people who are in power, which happen to be Caucasian people, at least for the time being. But what we have found with our research is that when it comes to language barriers and issues involved, immigrant parents and their offspring, we particularly looked at Asian Americans who date interracially. And I found it sort of interesting. When I was growing up, I just assumed that Asian guys weren't interested in me because they never looked my way. They never spoke to me. Come to find out, that's a cultural issue. It's rude to look somebody in the eye. It's rude to, be sort of overtly, interested. And so they come at you a totally different way. But also, when you're dealing with the language and wanting to preserve the culture, there's often some challenges there. The parents can often feel like, why don't you date, someone of your same ethnicity? And they feel it as almost a slight or rejection. And I think that poses a unique challenge that goes outside, that you don't necessarily get from being with someone who's Caucasian and you may have similar cultural upbringing, because you're both American and America does have a culture. And so there are things that you can certainly have in common. But if you're talking about someone who's, say, Hmong, they're a tribe in China. There's a story in there, unscrolling, about a guy who's Hmong and his girlfriend is black, and his family does not accept her. And so they have a unique set of challenges, because while they are trying to cling to their culture, they also feel like when it comes to hierarchy that they're sort of above African Americans, and it doesn't do anything to sort of augment their status as minorities.
Interesting.
So these are issues that you don't necessarily think about at first blush.
Do you think that people can be attracted to a type? Like, for example, I had a client who was white. Well, and he still is white, actually. But he was determined to meet an Asian girl. And I know that that's like a very common, like, stereotype, like white men are into Asian women. Do you think there's something maybe biological in this, though, since it is so common? Courtney?
I would like to just speak to that. I mean, I think that sometimes, at least in my experience when I was growing up dating, one of the worries was, if there was someone of another race who was interested in me, is it one of those things where it's like, oh, I just want to see what it's like to date a black girl? You want to, that always sort of was in the back of my mind, because is there, this sort of like a type or a stereotype that someone might be interested in? So I think that's something that's definitely you have to be aware of. But I do think that, on the other hand, it's very possible to have just a type that you are like physically attracted to that happens to be common in a certain race. If let's say you're attracted to dark brown hair, like brunettes, well, then you might be attracted to someone who's black or who's Asian, or it just depends on their people have different looks.
Oh my gosh, that explains a lot. Crystalline, what do you think?
I like all hot guys, so that's like
Her type is hot guys.
Right,
we figured that out. So clearly the presidential election is coming up, and so race is starting to cross everyone's mind again. And, people are saying, will Barack Obama lose votes because he's black? And, and then there's that whole other thing, like, is he black because he's biracial? Or people even saying, is he American? But that's a different show. So, and people are wondering about the Latino vote and where that's going to go. And everyone said that after the last election, we were living in a post-racial America. But, I'm really not so sure. I haven't been convinced since the beginning. So I would love to get your thoughts on this. Either of you.
I'll chime in. I certainly don't think we live in a post-racial society. I think that race still matters. But I think that we have to acknowledge the inroads that we have made. I mean, we are not where we were 40 years ago. We're not even where we were 20 years ago. We have made progress, but we still have a long way to go. I think that, with the highest growing minority being people of mixed race, biracial, African American, Caucasian, or just all sorts of different mixes, I think that we're going to have to start looking at the world and race in a different way. And I think that that's going to be positive. I think there's going to be some bumps on the road, though.
Yeah. Courtney, after the break, I want to get your thoughts on this post-racial America. Make a note. You can listen to the show again on youtube.com/Dear Mrs. D. Our YouTube channel also has helpful dating tips and videos all for free at youtube.com/Dear Mrs. D. Stay put. You're in the right place. More of Crystalline Karazin from blackwhite.com, from beyondblackwhite.com, and Courtney Morrison of Mix It Up. When we get back, you are listening to Cool Change Radio, your home for self-discovery.
Get quality goods for less from Bag City, serving all of Reno, Denver, Las Vegas, Bakersfield, Salt Lake City, Los Angeles, and many more cities. Up to 70% below retail on everything. Coin purses, wallets, organizers, purses, briefcases, backpacks, travel and garment bags, and ladies' and men's leather jackets. All discounted, all up to 70% below retail. Bag City, the best for less? Bag City serving all of Reno, Denver, Las Vegas, Bakersfield, Salt Lake City, Los Angeles, and many more cities. Contact Bag City at 818-990-1795. That's Bag City, quality goods for less money. Bag City, where 15% of all sales go to local charities. You can't beat that. You help local charities while getting quality goods at up to 70% below retail. Contact Bag City now at 818-990-1795. Contact Bag City today and get quality goods for less money. That's 818-990-1795. Shop Bag City to save. Shop Bag City for charity. Bag City, 818-990-1795.
We'll be back in a moment with more Dates and Mates with Dear Mrs. D.
Today, experience the Quick Fix, a simple process for positive change. Written by Bradley Quick, author, producer, motivational speaker, and host of the award-winning radio talk show, The Quick Fix with Bradley Quick on CoolChangeRadio.com. Bradley's passion for life is evident in his book, written so you can experience health, find your purpose, and have more effective relationships. Beating insurmountable odds, overcoming death, and being paralyzed, Bradley fought his way back so he could help you conquer your struggles. Experience increased health, vitality, passion, and purpose in your life right now with The Quick Fix, and read about Bradley's courage, ambition, and determination to live. Whether the issue is your thoughts, your physical body, or you just want to feel better and be happy, The Quick Fix, a simple process for positive change, will change your life. For only $19.95 plus shipping and handling. Take positive action now and receive a free guided meditation CD with your order. That's a $20 value free with your order today. Go to BradleyQuick.com. That's BradleyQuick.com. Take control and begin feeling better now. Get the book and free CD now at BradleyQuick.com.
Welcome back. Thanks to all of you for joining us on CoolChangeRadio.com, Facebook, Blog Talk Radio, and YouTube. As you know, you can watch our live and recorded shows at YouTube.com/Dear Mrs. D and find clips and tips at DearMrsD.com. You're listening to Cool Change Radio, broadcasting live from Freddie Siegel Studios. So for those of you watching us live on the Cool Change Radio network at CoolChangeRadio.com, we are here with Crystalline Karazin of the hit book Swirling, How to Date, Mate, and Relate, Mixing Race, Culture, and Creed, and Courtney Morrison of MixItUp.net, which is also on Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, and Cafe Press at Mix It Up World. All right, I'm hearing that we're getting a lot of chatter on the live stream boards here. So, I recognize people have different opinions about this topic. And it is very charged for a lot of people. So I'm glad that we are generating discussion, even if people are not agreeing with our point of view. Before the break, I brought up the Barack Obama of it all, which I'm sure is going to blow up the boards again. But, okay, first of all, he's swirled, like you and me, Courtney. But everyone identifies him as black. What's up with that?
I think that it's just the age-old notion of, kind of what you look like and the one-drop rule. And he, if you're walking down the street and you see him, you're going to say, oh, there's a black man. You don't know that his mother is white. And, it's the same thing with a lot of mixed-race people. I mean, I think we're assumed to be black because that's how we look. A lot of us. I mean, some of us don't, but the ones who do.
I know. I get like Spanish, Puerto Rican.
Yeah, I've gotten that too. Brazilian.
Yeah, I know. I really need to learn
Dominican.
Spanish so I can really play the game.
But I agree with a lot of what Crystal was saying before the break, and that we certainly don't live in a post-racial world, and I think particularly if you are involved in an interracial relationship, it's very important to realize that there are still issues about race and to be able to discuss them openly and honestly. And in my case, I'm lucky my husband and I have a really good sense of humor about being a mixed race couple, and we talk about everything and anything about race, and it's all fine. But I think that if you are going to be in a mixed race relationship, you do need to be able to be honest about those issues.
It's funny because I, as a biracial person with a Caucasian husband, and then I'm also half Jewish, and so there's a whole lot of mixed up culture in our home. But we actually don't talk about race that much. But it's interesting, and Crystal, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it. My mom actually is very aware of her blackness and how people perceive her, and my mom has dark skin, and against my daughter looks essentially white. So how has your family been able to relate to your children? You have 3 biracial children and 1 black child, correct?
Yes.
How does your family relate to them?
I have been super, super blessed in that my in-laws have embraced all of our kids. Their first, from the beginning, my oldest daughter, who came as a package with me, was their granddaughter. She called my father-in-law grandpa, and that was it. That was the end. He was in love. And so we've always been really close, and I think that because of the value system that my husband's family has, family is very, very important. Family is everything. And so that took precedence over everything. And so in that, I was fortunate that they're just very loving people, and family is a big part of it. So it made a huge difference for me. But I do think that on the outside of the family, I think people are sometimes confused about, our union. We were in Boston, and we were just walking around. We were sort of on the north end, and not near Harvard, but sort of on the other end, where the townies are. Mm-hmm. And they were looking at us like we were unicorns. They were very nice. They were very nice. I can't say anything bad about Boston, but they did look at me and my children like we were unicorns. And so I do think that there's...
And to them, maybe you were. They'd never. If you've never seen it, then it is going to be a unicorn to you. I wonder? Do you think people are really hiding their true feelings on race? Do you think things have really changed, or are people hiding behind what they think they are supposed to do now? The Strom Thurmond story always gets me. He defended Jim Crow laws and segregation, but then after his death, we find out that he fathered a child by a black woman who was 16, by the way, but that's a different show too. But do you think this kind of hypocrisy continues today, and what do we need to do to move past it?
Well, there's a lot of parallels in what's going on with the fight for equality in gay marriage, right? You have people who are so opposed to gay marriage, and then we come to find out that they're gay, or they're getting these special massages, So there's a lot of hypocrisy there. And so I think that as people feel more free to love who they love and be who they are, the more they're open to express those feelings. Because I think, with Strom Thurmond, he's a politician, and he was from a different day. You can't even compare Strom Thurmond to kids who were born, say, in the 90s or in the 2000s, they don't even have that frame of reference. But when he grew up, I mean, I'm trying to give him a little bit of, an out on that, and that he is a product of his time. I mean, it wasn't okay to be in love with a black woman. It wasn't okay to have children with a black woman. It was all about maintaining white supremacy. So I think that we're moving beyond that. We still, again, have a long way to go. I mean, I still think that there's still hypocrisy. I think now it's not cool to call somebody the N-word. But you have people who still think it. So I do think we do have some work to do, but I think that what I have the most hope for is the new generation. Kids who were born in the 2000s, kids who were born while Barack Obama has been president. Those are the people who just don't care. They just don't see this worldview the way that we see. They don't come with the same baggage. So I do have a lot of hope for this generation. I think that they hold the most hope for cultivating a post-racial society, more so than we do.
I like that optimism.
Yeah, and I think that there is a lot of hypocrisy, and Crystal's right. I mean, it's not cool to call somebody the N-word out in the open, but all you need to do is go online and look at comments to articles that have anything about Barack Obama or race, and you will see some of the most hateful, racist comments from people who hide behind their anonymity online. And so there is a lot of hypocrisy. I think it's just racism is there. It's just been sort of pushed to behind the scenes, and people are afraid to be racist out loud, but they're not afraid to do it, under the cloak of anonymity. And I do agree also that this new generation will change things. And I think just as time goes by, that the more common it becomes to date outside your race, to have more mixed race kids, the more sort of old-fashioned the notion of race and being racist will become. And I think that eventually we will move beyond. But I mean, at the end of the day, there will always be people who think they're better than somebody else and who hate somebody because of the way they look or the color of their skin. I mean, I just think you'll never get rid of that.
That's human nature.
Yes.
I like that you guys are optimistic, and I will be optimistic as well. Now, I'm also, as I mentioned earlier, I also am half Jewish, and my husband happens to be Jewish, so we're raising our daughter Jewish. But to end it on a positive note, for those people who are in mixed religion relationships, do you have any advice, Crystalline, do you have any advice for how to bring the family together when you have two completely different religious backgrounds and bases for faith?
Absolutely. We actually have a couple in the book that we highlight. His name is Alex Barnett, and he's a comedian. His wife is black, and he's Jewish, and she converted. And what we did find in our research is that if there has to be an appreciation and respect for the dual religions going in. But what I found is that if one person is fervent in their religion and the other person is sort of wishy-washy, that they could take it or leave it, then maybe if they're wishy-washy, they might just want to go on for the sake of peace and harmony once the kids are born and go with the religion with the partner who's fervent, just because it does make it a little bit easier. When you start to have children and you realize that religion, I mean, when I was single, it didn't seem as important until after you have children. And it's like, what do? Do they celebrate Christmas, or do they celebrate Hanukkah, or do they celebrate Christmaka? I mean, but there are some couples who do it very effectively, and they celebrate all the holidays, and they expose their children to all of the different aspects of the religion and the subsequent culture that comes out of the religion, and it's healthy, and I think that it's fun. I mean, I love the fusion that comes along with merging cultures, creeds, races, and religions. I think that you can create something new and wonderful, but you really do have to make sure that in the end that you have a healthy respect on both ends for that other person. But again, it really depends on the passion of the person. It's difficult,
Right.
I think, when you have children involved.
You have to kind of make a choice on how you're.
And you're married to an atheist.
You have to make a decision on how you're going to raise them. But I was raised with both races, both religions, and I really feel like I got the best of both worlds. So I feel really blessed. You want to learn more about crystalline and swirling, go to beyondblackwhite.com. That's beyondblackwhite.com, or get the book at Barnes & Noble. It's Swirling on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble. Download it for your e-reader. And you can find Courtney Morrison and Mix It Up at mix-it-up.net, or look for Mix It Up World on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, or Cafe Press. Again, I'd like to give a big thanks to Fred Siegel and to our friends from around the globe for supporting our charity, the Cool Change Foundation. I'd like to give a huge thanks to our guest, Courtney Morrison of mixitup.net, and Crystalline Karazin, co-author of Swirling. Thank you, ladies. You both have given such great insights on the topic of interracial relationships, and I really thank you for joining me today. This show is produced by Bradley Quick Productions and Dear Mrs. D Productions, and has been made possible by Fred Siegel, YouTube, Google, the Salvation Army, Universal Studios, Tim Allen, Marilyn Toth, Taylor Hoskins, Natasha Lewin, Gina Vergolito, Intuitive Entertainment, and many others, including the Cool Change Foundation. When we see you again next Friday at 2 p.m., we will be talking about when the bond breaks, how to avoid becoming a divorce statistic, and coping with the reality of being one, with experts Angela Paul and Alana Pratt. Thank you for joining us.